Hello and welcome. I'm Maria,
And I'm Rachel,
and we're your hosts of the Remember Me podcast.
and we're very happy you're here with us today.
Remember Me is dedicated to preserving the memories of those affected by dementia and the families walking alongside them.
We've created this space for you to feel more connected and supported.
And we hope these stories allow for a deeper understanding and a sense of belonging.
And shine a light on our motto, accept the good.
Always, always accept the good.
This is Remember Me.
Another huge question we get asked: what does the end look like?
Yeah, what does it look like, feel like?
And I think it'd be great if we could say every FTD ending is like this. And it's not. Some people have more traumatic, some people have very
A fall.
long. Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it sort of just wraps. Like I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to.
I feel like this is where we like diverge because like I just was so traumatized for a while with that experience. And it was peaceful. It was peaceful. It just was so final.
Right. And there's nothing else in your life.
There's
that's
nothing
final.
like that. And I think, yeah, I think the image of it was so hard. And the more I've talked about it, I've written about it, it's a tender place for me that I've tried to work through. And there are just things that happened that day that just made it more rattling. But it wasn't, like you said, like this dramatic scene. It was slow. It was like over the course of a week. We put on movies. But my mom was like asleep for, like her eyes were closed. Like it wasn't like there wasn't opportunity to like connect with her, you know?
Right.
But yeah, just the finality of it, and just when you're anticipating it for so long, and then you're like, now I'm here in this thing that I've anticipated for 4 years.
But you're still you're still like,
yeah,
is
and
it
then
now?
you're still
Is
like,
it now?
was that her last? You know,
Yeah, because
like, and then you're just like, and I just think, not to induce anxiety, but you're not you really don't know how you're gonna feel on the other side. You really have no idea.
But I do remember feeling like my dad died really early in the morning, 5:50, and obviously I didn't go back to sleep. But I remember like when the sun came up and I was like, the day it started, I don't know, it started earlier, but you know,
Yeah.
I'm up, I'm making coffee. Like I remember being like, I have a dead dad. Is that weird?
No, but also like, I am not a caregiver anymore.
I have,
Like,
what am I going to do?
What?
Yeah. And then it was like, okay, I have to plan this and
Right,
do that
right,
and
right.
go through that, to call everybody and all that. But like, I remember thinking like, I'm pouring coffee as a person that has a dad that's dead.
Right.
Like it just, I had to like remind myself that day a lot. And then I remember Max was in a golf tournament that day. And I remember Nick was like, you should come. And I remember thinking like, how could he think that? And I went, and it was, I remember like standing on the golf course being like, my dad's dead.
Right.
You know? And then the next morning I woke up and I remember like, whoa. And I didn't cry a whole lot. I know I did right when I got off the phone, but I was in the boat of, I took a deep breath. I wasn't like, ugh. I was more like, it's done. I cried. I was upset. It was life altering. But because the disease lasted for 10 years, it felt more like
there is peace.
Yes.
There is peace and unbelievable heartbreak. There's both.
Yes.
You know?
But I wasn't heartbroken for him in the disease.
No.
I was heartbroken for him as the 30-year-old young dad that missed half my life.
Right.
You know?
But you were glad that that journey was done.
Right.
There's something that they say in like the Greek Orthodox Church when, you know, someone dies, there's a little ceremony, and it's like there's a part about it, not to get too religious, but just about like they're now in a place where there's like no suffering, no pain, no, and like just hearing those words, I was like, yes, like,
right.
And I just remember just feeling, like a lot of peace in between, you know, bouts of crying and being like, oh, what's happening? Of just like, she's okay.
Yeah, I felt more like not only is he in a better place, whatever you believe, if he's reincarnated, I don't know.
Is he Benny? Okay.
I don't know. Is Benny him? Is that why Benny's like looks at me like, you're my best friend? But like, I'm also at peace. Like this waiting, this, what is it going to look like? This, when is it happening? This, is my phone going to ring? Is all over. And there's part of it too that's like, remember when you stopped nursing, you're like, what am I going to do with my free time?
Yeah.
Like that part of you is no longer.
I know. I've tried to explain this to Mike too, with just like that we're no longer having babies.
Right.
Like
it's
that
done.
chapter is done. And that's weird.
We're also like hardwired to like make
I told
babies.
him that too. Like our body is like, but that's what I was made.
Right. I am a female and I'm going to have babies.
Like I'm never going to nurse again.
I know. I'm never going to like do skin to skin.
But also that time was hard.
It was, I loved it. Anyway, I know people get weirded out by like death and dying, and like Jack was talking to me about it the other day. We were talking about God. Okay. Hello. And we have a new Berenstain Bears book, the big question, and like what happens when you die. And Max is at the age now where you understand death. Like up until 9, you just think, I don't see that person anymore.
Right.
But like 10, 11, it's like a concrete, you're able to understand it a little bit more. And we were talking about death and what happens, and they were both like, we don't want you to die. And I'm like, we're not, why are we talking about me dying?
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, that conversation shifted. But I remember telling them, like, when the time comes and somebody is ready to die, your body knows exactly what to do. Like, it's nothing to fear or to be scared of. Your body will walk you through it, and it's very peaceful. I'm not going to tell him, like, it could happen like that. You could get hit by a car. But, like, you know, this type of death where you know it's coming, I think is really, that's how we all want to go.
Of course.
Surrounded by the people that love you. And I think it'd be a really good spot for Katie to jump in.
Right.
And share, like, what goes on for the person that's dying, like what is actively happening for or in their body.
My name is Katie Duncan. I'm a nurse practitioner and an end-of-life coach. If I were going to describe to someone the dying process, I would split it up into 3 different phases: months before death, weeks before death, and hours to days before death. But before I talk about sort of those natural changes, the natural signs and changes that we can look for when someone is dying, is that I always like to tell families a couple of things. Number one, that the dying process, even though our bodies are made to die And that dying process is pretty systematic in the shutting down process. Every single person will have a different dying process. The experience for someone will be different because we're all unique beings. We come from different backgrounds, we have different health conditions, we have different belief systems. And so that creates a different dying process for every single person. The other thing to remember is that, like I just said a second ago, our bodies really do know exactly what to do to die. Just like our bodies knew exactly what to do and the process to come into this world, to birth into this world, our bodies know exactly what to do to leave it. The dying process is a natural shutting down process that is biologically ingrained in our body's system. So whether we try to interfere or not, we will go through that process just like our bodies went through the process to birth into the world. So let's now break down the dying process, the months, weeks, and hours to days. So when we think about the months before death, what are some of the things that we see or think about? Well, generally speaking, someone is slowing down. They are withdrawing and disconnecting from the world. They're slowing down in different ways. They are less active. They're not doing the things they used to do and enjoy all the time. They're probably a little more tired than usual. You're noticing they're probably sleeping more, maybe not all the time, but maybe they're taking an occasional nap now when they didn't used to, or maybe they're sleeping in when they didn't used to. They have a lot less energy for really everything, for conversation, for activities, for even engaging in relationships. They're less engaged. And we're starting to usually notice slightly less of an appetite. So everything is starting to slow down and disconnect. That's the months before death. In the weeks before death, all of those things are more obvious. They are more pronounced. That person is now sleeping a lot more. That sleep is very obvious. They're probably sleeping most of the day, maybe almost every day, maybe not every day, but they're sleeping a lot more throughout the day. They are getting weaker, so they're not getting out of bed very much. They need help getting out of bed. They might be in bed all the time. And you might also notice that they're experiencing falls. You also are likely going to notice that they are a little less lucid. And what I mean by that is you may start to notice a little bit of confusion or a little bit of forgetfulness. They're not totally clear all the time. And then generally, there is less interest in eating, and they may really stop eating some days. And with that, you also notice trouble swallowing. So maybe you're hearing them cough when they eat, or you're just noticing that they're having a hard time getting it down. That difficulty swallowing happens for a couple of reasons, because to swallow, we need both muscle and reflex. And both the muscles are getting weaker and the reflexes are slowing. And so that's causing that difficulty in swallowing. So those are the things we see weeks before death. And then in the hours to days before death, again, the timeline might be a little bit different for every person, but generally hours to days, for the most part, that person stops waking up. They are in an unconscious state, so they're not eating, they're not drinking, they're probably not moving. We are also starting to notice some breathing changes. You might hear something called Cheyne-Stokes respirations, which is this natural reflexive breathing pattern that happens when the heart and the brain are starting to shut down. And it looks like this. It's this heavy, labored, fast breathing. And then at the top, it starts to kind of slow down. And all of a sudden, there's a pause in that breath. That pause might be 10 seconds, it might be 15, it might be 20 seconds. And then that breathing pattern starts over again, that heavy, labored, fast breathing, long pause. That's called Cheyne-Stokes breathing. Sometimes you might also notice more gasp-like breathing, quick, fast gasp-like breathing, where they're really not fully oxygenating their lungs. Again, this is a similar reflex that happens when the part of the brain that controls our breathing is shutting down. So these breathing changes are totally normal, even though they look kind of strange to us. Along with those breathing changes, it is not unlikely that you will also hear a rattling or gurgling kind of sound every time they breathe. This is called terminal secretions. And this happens, the reason that this rattling or gurgling sound happens is because that person has lost the ability to swallow. They've lost the strength, they've lost that reflex to swallow, and our body is continuing to make secretions. So, by secretions, think saliva, think mucus, and these things start to collect. They pool in the back of the throat, right over the voice box. And every time that person breathes, that dry air and that wet sort of secretion that air passes over the secretions and it creates this loud gurgling sound. And a lot of families are really worried that this is painful or distressing or their person is drowning. And this is not the same as drowning, and that person is not in pain. They are really in an unconscious state, and it's really just this air passing over wet stuff that's creating this loud noise. The last thing we see are changes in sort of skin. So their eyes might be partially open, their mouth might be partially open, and their skin might be cold to touch. Sometimes a person does develop a fever, so they might be hot, so they kind of change hot to cold. And the toes and the lower legs will usually start to turn a bluish or purple kind of blotchy color, almost like a weird looking bruise. And that is called mottling. And that happens as the heart is shutting down and blood flow can no longer meet or reach the furthest parts of the body. So the toes are usually the first to start to change color. So those are the signs, the normal and natural signs and changes that we look for when someone is going through the dying process. And I think it's really helpful to remember that these are all normal. Everything we're seeing is normal, and that the dying process in itself is not painful. I've had so many patients and clients that I have experienced and supported through their dying process, as well as my own family members. And I will say, actually, the majority of people really don't experience pain when they are dying. Pain, what causes pain is really from their disease and the disease process and the changes due to the disease, which for the most part are usually very manageable with the correct comfort medications and support measures that hospice or an end-of-life doula or the combination of them can really help support. So just remember, if you are going through the dying process with a loved one, or you are living with a terminal illness and you are dying, remember that your body knows exactly what to do. And our bodies really do protect us in so many different ways, even when we are going through the dying process. Our bodies protected us in ways when we were coming into this world, and it protects us on the way out. So just remember that.
That's sort of how I see it. Like, it's very peaceful. It can be very sacred. It can be very beautiful. I think it's that anticipating that, like, that last breath where you're like, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? For somebody who runs a little on the anxious side, even with Lexapro, that part was a lot. And I know I wasn't there for the actual death of my dad, but those couple of days of like checking the phone more, going down there, sitting with him, watching the chest go up and down. It's a lot.
I remember.
But I think if my advice, and maybe yours would be different, if you can be there, it's worth being there. I struggle with, could I have, should I have? Some people believe that people wait till their loved one leaves to die. I think it was ceremonial for my dad to die with Nick. I don't know, like
passing
me on. Like,
yeah.
Now she's your problem. But I think it's a beautiful way to like close it. There's no more anticipating. It's done.
And you're present for that.
Yeah. I was present for Nick's dad's like final breath. And of course, it's not my dad, but like it was, to me, it was so peaceful. Like his family was there. We were like with him. Like Marilyn was like near his head. It was just how I would want to go. And then it's over. And then it's like, okay. Like I remember like looking at Nick like, now what?
Right.
You know? And I know what, the mortuary,
Right.
all of that.
Right.
But like we as humans, as people, there's not a lot of like end, like concrete end.
Yeah, like
things
finality,
just,
like that. Yes.
I think that's a big and hard concept to wrap our head around, but I don't think it's something to like fear. You know? I know people do.
I know. And I agree. I think the thing that helped the most with preparing for that was listening to some other stories, June in particular, when Lauren really walked through her mom June's death and like how peaceful it was. I think it really helped, because when we were anticipating, my mom, it was like kind of over a week time, I kept thinking of the things from that episode, and it was comforting in a way, like just I had that with me. I don't know how to describe it.
It's also like really raw, right? Like that's the most, like death and life are like the most, being in someone's birth room, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a very intense experience.
Right.
Being with somebody when they die. I also think it's important to like move away from some of the myths where it's like, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's not like that.
Yeah.
For some people, I'm sure for some people it is. But like, you know, in those movies where they're putting the baby to sleep and they like turn the light out and close the door. It's not like that in real life. Okay?
Right.
Nobody puts their babies to sleep like that. Nobody is like, I mean, my experience, like my dad wasn't gasping and like
Right.
it was like an airplane
Right,
landing,
right.
you know? And I think wrapping this one up in a nice bow and ending it, we're talking about the end and the end and the end. I think two things. I mean, I think way more than two things, but two things to wrap up for me. And then we'll do two things to wrap up for you. Don't rush through it.
The end.
Any of it.
Okay.
Like if I...
Do you wish you hadn't been like, I remember even when I first met you, you being like, I kind of hope he's done soon here.
I don't regret saying that, and but like when we were waiting, like I was like, I want it to happen now because I just want it to
You were
end.
looking at the...
Yeah, like that part, like this is a natural thing. And I don't think our society and the world we live in talk about it enough. Like this is part of life. And it's the darker part and the bitter of the sweet, but like it's so meaningful. Like it's the most final thing we'll ever experience. And to watch somebody go through it and like be there with them is like the most like tender mercy. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it's the most beautiful to me, not to everybody.
I know you say that and you look right at me.
I know, because it's not for you. I know you don't like it. I know it's
It was
uncomfortable.
hard. It was
Yes.
hard.
And normally when things are hard, you don't like them.
Me? Or...
Everybody. Like when you're not like, I'm going to do math homework because it's fun.
Yeah. But
Right.
also like, I remember being like, I don't want to be there. Like I had hoped she would.
Yeah.
In her sleep, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like I still was there.
Yeah.
Because that's what she deserved.
Right. Don't rush through it. Just try to not enjoy it. That sounds so like, and then paint your nails black. But like, try to like remember that this part of it is like quick in comparison. And I wish somebody would have told me that. Like, it's going to be days, but those days are going to be filled with like the most like,
You're very present.
you're just like, I just want to wrap up. I want a winter. Don't rush. And the second thing I would say is whatever you're thinking about in the future, like, am I going to get the call? Am I going to need to go down there? Is it going to happen? Am I going to get it? To come back to the now. Because living in that anticipatory, and it part of it you can't control, you just have to kind of accept. But living in that is not the bee's knees.
No, don't live there. My two, to wrap.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like this is really your forte.
Okay. You want me to keep going?
I mean,
No,
get your glasses.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I just
But-
want to offer that, like, I do understand it can be very traumatic too. Not traumatic in like the like yeah, but just in it. Maybe traumatic isn't the right word. It just the image of it is a little shocking. Yeah, I think just that piece of it. I think also just I was around other family members and anticipating that, and my 2-year-old is upstairs, and I'm like, hopefully he stays asleep for this part, you know, like.
Yeah, there was a lot.
There was a lot, you know, but it was peaceful. It was. But it was also really hard. You know, we were administering her morphine because it was COVID, and you know, they couldn't have the hospice nurses there 24/7. It was understaffed. But I will share, my mom died at the exact same time that Liam was born. So she died at 1:13 p.m. and that was the same time
Really?
Liam was born. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Full circle. Life and death.
I know.
Bitter and sweet.
I don't know why too, like right when the last breath happened, I was like, what time is it? Not because I was trying to connect those two things. I did make that connection for a long time. But just because I don't know, like you fixate on weird things. And I even like I talked to one of my sisters about it like years later, and I was like, and remember you were right there or whatever. And she's like, I wasn't in the room. And I'm like, yeah, you were right next to me. Like, I remembered it so different than it. She was like, no, you came and caught me outside. I'm like, I don't recall any of that.
Wow.
You know?
I asked Nick, like, tell me what it looked like.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know, he's very respectful. But like,
the way he described it, and you've described it, is really beautiful in my head. I remember.
Like,
just like,
I remember
he was
like, so I also want to preface, like, I had spent like 3 straight days there. Like, I was seeing things.
You don't have to do that.
No, I know. But like, I want to say, like, it wasn't that I was just like, well, I'm done being here. Like, I needed to close my eyes.
You hadn't slept
I
or
hadn't
eaten
slept,
or any.
and
Yeah.
my kids were like, what's going on? Like, what, do you live here still? And I remember I went home and I was thinking, like, I'm probably not going to see him again. And I remember Nick walked out of the room and it was just my dad and I. And I was like, I'm sure this is it. I want you to know you are the best dad. And I kissed his forehead and I walked out, and I remember turning around and looking at him one more time, and he was wearing this blue Puma shirt that Max had picked out for him. And I remember going, I want that shirt. Like, that's the only thing I thought of, like, real psycho.
You know what?
And I was like, I want to make sure I get that shirt. It's like, I don't know, I'm a freak. And then I got the call at 5:50, and it was like, okay. And Nick said that they had just like washed his face and washed his hands, and they like fluffed his sheet, and they like got him all comfortable, and he just stopped breathing. And he was like, I was right there, and I was playing Jimi Hendrix for him. And he just kind of like drifted off. And in my head, I'm like, even if that's not how it went,
Thank you for saying that.
thank you for making it the most beautiful scene
Yes,
I've ever heard in my life.
Yes.
May you all have a Nick, or may you all have the strength to be there. I just think it can be really special and shocking and hard and beautiful all at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you want to learn more about Remember Me, you can go to remembermeftd.com. We love getting new Instagram followers, so follow us on Instagram at Remember Me Podcast. And please consider joining our Patreon. It's a great way to support the podcast and get extra content. For example, our Patreon just got an extended version of this episode dropped a day early for them. So you can go to patreon.com/remembermecommunity. This podcast is produced by Rachel Martinez and Maria Kent Beers, and the beautiful music you hear is a song called So Damn Lucky by Bailey Kent.